I totally believe that you can feel the energy when you walk into a space. I don't care what space it is. It's like there is a particular energy. You can
100%.
tell whether it's a positive energy or
Or
a
negative
negative
one.
energy or a high or low energy. It's like you pick up on that right away.
All right, and we are back again. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Judy Lager with Empowered Fitness. Judy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Alex. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So you are actually a coach in a very particular space because you focus on a particular age group. Is that right?
That's correct. I
Okay.
work with adults 50 and above
Interesting.
primarily.
And what in your career path drove you to this? Why that age group? I guess.
Well, from a fitness standpoint, I mean, I've always loved fitness in general. Um, and I just found with getting back into it at an older age for myself, which I was in my 40s actually when I started back in fitness, and this as I've continued on in my journey through it and becoming an instructor and a personal trainer, it's I teach classes in some of the very large, some of the larger size gyms, and you go out there and you look out on the floor, and most of the trainers are in their 20s or maybe their 30s. Yet so many of the clients or potential clients, I should say, in the gyms are, middle-aged to older adults. And I've had a couple of people say it's like they just don't understand what my body is doing at this particular point in time in my life. And I just realized that there was a need, for someone to be in that same age bracket for them, so that they do have somebody that understands, the aches and pains or what we've put our bodies through, and some of those results that we've done, that we've put ourselves through, that someone that's in their 20s or early 30s isn't going to really understand.
Right, and people probably feel more comfortable and they're able to connect as well. Part of what you do a lot is emotional connection with your clients, right?
Oh, absolutely, especially for more so for women than in men. But if women have been busy taking care of the kids and working, and now that they've become they have more time on their hands, so many of them feel they feel intimidated by walking, stepping into a bigger gym where they don't know what they're doing, they don't know how to use the equipment. They're afraid that people are going to look at them strangely, and there's big bulky men that are hanging around that are again going to make them feel intimidated. So having someone that again that's in the same area of life that they are helps take away a lot of that intimidation. And I understand some of that emotional and mental stuff that's going on, with becoming an empty nester and realizing, okay, now I get to do stuff again. Now what do I want to do?
Interesting. And do you find it that people are well? Let me rephrase that question. Which do you feel that smaller environment coaching versus no, I'm sorry, not coaching, training versus when
Mm-hmm.
you are working with these larger gyms with a larger group, where does that age demographic feel more comfortable in?
I think it depends on what it is they're wanting to, what their goals are, what they want to accomplish. Because in the larger gyms, I teach group fitness classes, so the environment is very different in there. So everybody's doing basically the same thing. Um, what helps from, at least I think so, from my end, one with having taught for almost 20 years, is I'm able to give options and modifications for people if they have a particular injury or if they're trying to recover from something and they can't necessarily do it the way that I were originally and explaining it to do. So they still feel that they can be successful with being in that group environment. And there's a big, there's a lot of camaraderie that goes along. But then
Right.
other people want to be able to just, whatever for their time frame or whatever they want. They like a smaller atmosphere because again, it's like we have the equipment, but because it's a smaller environment, there's fewer people involved. You're not seeing, you don't have the big bulky people, and so they feel more comfortable with being able to connect with you versus being in a big space.
Do people usually go from walking into a larger gym and beginning their journey there, or do you see more people start with small private and then graduate to the bigger gyms? Which way does it usually flow more?
I think it probably just flows going from the smaller setting into the larger setting because they're able to build their confidence in the smaller setting. So, if we work together and they may find they want to be able to do something more frequently than what when we're meeting, with now having that experience in being able to use, free weights or some of the machines that we have in our studio, it then translate. I feel confident enough to be able to go and do that, or I can put something together for them so they feel like when they walk into the bigger space, it's like they know what weights to use, they know what exercises to do, they know what machines can do what. So again, they feel more confident with being able to step into that atmosphere versus the other way around.
Do you feel that people gravitate more towards being in a group environment? And the reason why I asked this question is because of the age group that you are working with. Those individuals grew up in a society where everything was more group based or face to face, versus now you have this new generations that are coming in who are who feel very so socially anxious to even go to do exercising in a group environment. So do you feel that the older generation is more, they kind of pull towards being together or doing exercise or this growth as a group versus individuals?
I think for general health and wellness, yes. I mean, I think that that this particular age bracket does love the social interaction, and I think it becomes more important, as they get older, because unfortunately we know we start to lose friends or family along the way and realize those relationships are very important.
Right.
So by being in a group atmosphere, you've got basically a circle of friends that you know that you're going to see them, whatever, 2 or 3 times a week in a particular class or a different class, and know that you've got that social environment. Whereas, in the smaller gym, it's like where I am, it's an independent gym or I should say, it's a private gym for independent trainers. So even with that, because there's probably about I think there's probably about 9 or 10 of us as trainers that are there. So we bring our clients in. Well, again, it gets sort of similar in that respect too, because the same people show up at the same time, the same days of the week. So you still start to see some of those same faces. For us as trainers, it's like we have a fun interaction with each other because we all have different specialties or strengths and that, so that we have a good time together. There's no tension or animosity. It's like we work well together. And then of course the clients do the same thing. It's like, because we're sometimes having to zig and zag around equipment, or it's like, are you done with this, or can mind if I jump in? And it's like, yeah, go right ahead. So they get some of that in our environment as well. But from a group standpoint, say in the gym, I think that the group fitness atmosphere it is just as much a social aspect of it as it is a workout aspect.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, and a person's mindset in the middle of whatever training that they're doing is so crucial. And if they are in a comfortable, happy environment, they're going to see results much faster, versus if they're in a tension place. So, right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I totally believe that you can feel the energy when you walk into a space. I don't care what space it is. It's like there is a particular energy.
100%.
You can tell whether it's a positive energy or a negative energy, or a high or low energy. It's like you pick up on that right away.
Oh yeah.
And I think that energy then impacts how you are in that same environment.
I got into this whole space because I kept having those types of events. I remember one clearly. I was at a casino. It was in the middle of a day, so and that's kind of when we do go. That's when we like to go because it's quiet and peaceful. And this gentleman who's been drinking, smoking, I mean, he was just obnoxious. Came and he sat down right next to me, which was honestly was a sign from above for me to leave that table. As a whole different conversation. but he made me feel so uncomfortable that by the time that he got up and left, which was probably maybe a 20-minute session, my entire right side of my body was tense and aching from that negative energy.
Oh,
So
I
it's,
believe that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that kind of just like tripped my mind into this whole, and this is how I am here today. So let's talk about your clients, because now, do you feel that there is just as many trainers and coaches that are catering to the 50 plus group as there is to the younger ones, or is it a golden untapped market?
I think it's still very much untapped. I don't see too many people. Now I'm a part of a couple of different groups, um, or in environments where from a training standpoint for trainers, or continuing education that specifically address the 50 and above demographic. But a lot of trainers want to deal with, I want the competitors, the bodybuilders, or the athletes. And
People that are willing to spend a lot of money.
yes and no, but if you look at the 50 and above, that's they're now starting to have some more free time. They're more established in their careers. They have probably more of the disposable income that you didn't have, when you were in your 20s or 30s.
Right.
Yeah, when you're in 20s or 30s, if you don't have kids, then you do have some of that disposable income. But once you start having a family, as you know, it's like it's gone.
We have an 11-year-old and about to be 9-year-old. So you know how they say those early years it just gets really expensive with diapers and everything else. It just
Oh, it does.
transitions into food and everything else, and then sports, and
It
yeah,
does.
it it gets crazy. If, let's say, a magic genie was to show up right now and say, Judy, with the click of my fingers, I will give you whatever your ideal customer is. How would you describe the person that you feel is the one that needs your coaching right now in this moment? What would that look like?
Good question. I would say I want my ideal client would be someone that's wanting to start that journey, that either has not exercised in a very long time, or maybe hasn't even exercised at all. But they realize that what they want to be able to continue to do, they know they need to do something. But in a lot of cases, they have no idea where to start, how to begin, what to do. And again, that's where the intimidation factor comes in, because they feel that way, then they don't know what steps to take. And also not having that accountability of someone being there saying, okay, we're going to do this, or making that appointment for themselves, because we all know that we have good intentions a lot of the times, but something comes up, or we can get distracted and go, oh, I just don't feel like it today. Where if you have that appointment, and we keep our appointments for other people, well, it's just as important to keep that appointment for ourselves. Um, so helping people start that journey, start to develop that confidence, have that accountability, so they start to see things happening for the better, whether they start moving better, eating better, because I think eating better tends to happen on a natural basis. Once you start
Feeling better.
moving well and you start feeling better, the eating sort of naturally happens in a lot of cases. So that they're developing that confidence for themselves. They're starting to see, it's like, okay, I'm able to get down on the ground and get up without that achiness. And then maybe that evolves into them going, will you give me a workout routine that I can take to the gym? I want to start going to the gym on my own, and having them develop that confidence to be able to do that as well.
So your ideal place is to work with somebody who's just getting back into this, or starting into, or realizing that they're at a stage of their life where they need to improve, not improve. Let me rephrase that. They want to maintain a healthy lifestyle as they age, so they do not experience a lot of the problems that we all hear people have as those days approach of broken hips and the things like that. What would you say to somebody who is sitting on the fence, right? They've never done this because for whatever reason life, back when they were younger, it's just not something that they did. I feel like we have this new hyper workout generation now that's like people are like so extreme with it that it kind of goes crazy. But before we had this, I don't know, like a milder take on it. So if you have a person like that who needs it, right? You and I both know we have sat with people who we know need, whether it's the coaching that I do or the coaching style, the things that you do, but they're just not crossing that fence. What would you say to them that would help them understand that they should and why?
Ooh, okay.
Sorry.
Um,
Hey,
Very in-depth question here. Oh my goodness, put my hat on. Coaching hat. All right. If they're on the fence, I would definitely say to them, it's like, let's try it for 2 months. See what you feel. Let's see what difference this can make. Because right now it's like, if you don't know the difference between how you're feeling now and what you would be feeling in say 2 months. Let's see where we can get you. It's, we don't, it's like if you have a shoulder issue, we can work around the shoulder issue. You have a hip issue, we can work around the hip issue. But we start moving you on a regular basis, we start getting you stronger physically. I think you'll notice a big difference from where you started to where you are 8 weeks later. Um, I just say let's give it a try.
Is that
And
your standard timeline for when you usually begin to see some type of a result with people?
8 weeks is usually a pretty good guideline. If they're staying consistent with it, say 2 times a week, coming 2 times a week, you'll start to, most people will start to feel something within, the third to fourth week. But to really make an impact where it's starting to stay, plus they're developing the habit, the routine of exercising. Their body is now getting used to having it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, since you'd like to work out too, it's like, when you don't go for, when you get out of that routine of not going, it's like you feel it almost immediately. It's like, we go on vacation for a week. By the time I'm done, it's like, I need to get back in the gym.
Right.
I got to do this.
Right.
So that 8 weeks also, you've got the habit going. You've got yourself feeling better. Now your body's getting used to exercising. So if you stop, you're going to notice it pretty quick.
Right. I used to be one of those ignorant young kids who would be at a hotel and be like, why are people working out on vacation? Well, what is wrong with them? You're here to relax. Now I'm one of those people who is more concerned about packing my workout shoes with me versus my dress
Mm-hmm.
shoes. It doesn't matter where I'm traveling. I'm actually looking to see what kind of a gym do they have. And it's not because I want to improve. I just want to maintain, right?
Yes.
And it's that those things. You said something earlier that was really interesting. You said, "Let's see how you feel." You are the first coach that I've had chances to sit down with who actually does physical coaching. So far, it's been people that do mental stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Basically Zoom coaches, right? That's their their
Okay.
their their new names, and we when people are going through this process of creating that habit, when they're always are talking about, you're going to see results, you're going to see results. You said feel results. So how often is it that people see a difference versus they begin just to feel a difference in that 8 week time frame?
I think they will feel the difference more so than they will see the difference. Um, because I think more when you get into, I would say, the mid 40s and up, it's less about the physique and more about how you're feeling, how well are you moving, how have the aches and pains gone down. just in general, I mean, as we know, exercise brings endorphins. So, it gives you're feeling better. You're not, your mood levels on and energy levels pick up. So, they'll notice that they have more energy. They'll notice that they can go longer in the day without feeling tired. Again, they can bend down to pick something up and not feel like they're aching. For me, I think it's important. Not that I don't have one yet, but that's my next preparation. Is grandkids.
Ah, yes.
Don't have any yet, but I'm on the prep end of it here for when that does happen. I want to be able to sit on the ground, and I want to be able to get up off the ground, and that's really what a lot of, if they're going to um, their kids or grandkids baseball game or soccer game, they're sitting in the bleachers or they're in the chairs, or they want, the little ones want you to come on the ground. Most people want to be able to do that and then be able to get back up. And, or, as we know, pickleball is huge. People want to be able, if you're moving back and forth, you've got a little stop and go, you're rotating. Golf, say, there a lot of similarities between them is that you don't want to hit a shot and then all of a sudden your back goes out because you pulled a muscle.
Right. I've done that. In
It's not
Taekwondo.
fun.
No, I was
It's
on
not
I
fun.
was on the couch for 4.5 months.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Ah,
and I tried so many various things and this and that. I was reading this and that, and it all came down to doing one thing: building the strength of my lower back and my glutes. That's really what changed everything.
yeah.
So I'm at one point I saw this rise of what seemed like there was like a coach on every single social media platform that I would go to. This person's a coach, and this person's a coach, and this person's a coach, and it kind of became a little overwhelming. But then I also understand that everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs somebody to tell them to get off their asses. As bad as that sound, somebody who's not emotionally attached to them, that can really help and steer that person. And that's really what people come to you for, your knowledge of how to work with the body, how to build or how not to injure themselves as they are building, and also for you to kind of tell them to get off their asses, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
it's your job. Correct me if I'm wrong here. So let's say this person crossed the fence, right? They signed up. What does it look like now? What is the process that you take your clients from the moment that they sign up to the end of that 8 weeks or the 12 week, whatever that phase is? What can a person expect for those steps to look like?
Initially, we go through sort of I want to say history. It can be medical history, injury history, just a general health background, so that I know, if there's any things that I shouldn't be doing based on what their doctor is asking them to do, or medication. If there's certain things, making sure that the doctor has okayed them or approved for them to be able to do an exercise program, just depending on what that is. So they get a whole like health background, so that I have that to work from. Um, then the first couple of visits are really, the first one in particular is we go through primarily a movement assessment. Okay, how well are they moving? How well can they sit to stand? Because I mean, a sit to stand really is a squat. How well can they bring move their arms from their sides up over their heads? Can they bring it around their backs? Um, can you bend? Can we bend from the hips? I do have a client that um, I can't get her to move from her hips no matter what she does.
Wow.
um, you get her to try and do something, and she's either rounding her back to come forward, and it's like, no, I want you to move from your hips. And she, partially, I think, because she's never ever done this, her body awareness isn't there. So helping people to learn body awareness. We can we can check, like hamstrings. Okay, even just trying to lean over to touch your toes, where, how far can they be or not be. Um, then we go on to just even some initial, strength testing. It's like, okay, how big of a weight can you do to do a bicep curl, or say the leg extension machine or leg curl machine or a lat pull down. Okay, where can what are you what weight are we at? Because we have to have a starting point. And that's really what it's all about. There's got to be a starting point. So going through all of that in the first couple of visits is that starting point. It's not good or bad in any respect. It's just we have to start from someplace. So let's see where you are, and we start from there, and then we can just build on that. So the first few visits are really just getting them used to it, getting used to understanding the different pieces of equipment, or working the body in different ways than it's used to, because they'll probably be somewhat sore. I mean, the sore, you don't want the soreness so much that you can't move, but you want to know that you moved your body. So I don't want them not to be able to walk for 3 days after we're done. And then we can start to build on that. So it's all right, maybe we add in more. Once we've got those basics down, then we can start, whether it's adding more weight, maybe adding some more movement, or things that I may notice along that. It's like, okay, after we've done particular, workout routine, I'm starting to notice little things. Okay, let's add this into it. Let's try using a band for this, to help with correction, and focusing in on getting the movement patterns as close to perfect as we can get, because it's doing it properly is more important than doing it with a big weight. So, and again, the goal is to move better. So let's focus on getting the movements as good as we can possibly get them, and then go. Because if you can't lift your arm over your head, there's no sense in me trying to strengthen one thing. It's like, if you have a bad movement here, putting your heavier weight is still going to be a bad movement,
and it's going to cause damage.
and it's going to cause damage. Let's work on loosening it up, releasing some of the trigger points that you might have in there, doing different, I want to say more, I don't want to say remedial exercises, but alternative exercises to strengthen the muscles that are weaker, that are causing some of that impingement or encroachment or lack of function on a particular area, so that then we can start making it stronger once we have more of the correct movement to begin with.
And the things that you just described, is this in the first week? Are we talking the first month? Like, what kind of a time frame is that in?
This is probably more the first month.
The first month, okay.
Because it's like, the first week is just going to be doing the assessment and starting to go through a basic routine. Second week is that basic routine, and maybe then by the end of the second week, okay, I start to notice maybe some other things. Okay, now we can start adding in some other things to make little tweaks on it. So by the end of usually the first 4 weeks is really where we'll start to see that all start coming together.
When they're going through this process, how much resistance do you encounter as you take people just through this basic of understanding, of seeing where they're at from this beginning point? Are people fairly open to it? Are they like, yeah, let's, are they going to do everything that you ask them to do, or is there going to be a little resistance?
For the most part, they're pretty open.
Okay.
There have been, and it's just usually very few where I want to say they get nervous or cold feet from that standpoint. For the most part, it's like, if they're ready to make that decision, they're going to be open to what I'm asking them to do. Because if I've done it properly, which ideally I have, is then they're comfortable with me knowing what what their aches and pains are. What did they have a hip replacement? Did they have a knee replacement? If they've done a good job explaining that to me, then they know that I'm not going to put them in a position that it may feel awkward, but it's not going to be dangerous.
Got it.
And that's really what they're okay with being awkward, but they just don't want it to be something where they feel they're going to get hurt.
And how often do you meet with your clients? Is it once a week, twice a week? What kind of a schedule do you normally operate with?
Ideally, I love to see them twice a week, because then you've got that consistency, and it makes them more of a difference. I do have some people that I meet with once a week, just because their lifestyle is as such, and they still feel they get a benefit out of that. they would get more benefit if they would come twice a week. But hey, like, life gets in there. I would rather have them come in and work with me once a week and just, keep going. Um, Twice a week is probably ideal for most people with their
Do,
schedules.
do you see a big difference between people that come in once a week or those that come in twice a week? Is there really that much of a gap, or is it small?
Probably after the first, I don't know, say probably the first 8 weeks. If someone's been coming consistently over twice a week for, say, that 8 week period that we talked about initially, they are definitely going to see a bigger improvement than those that come once a week. Their strength is going to be there because, it's their body's adapting to it. They're starting to feel, they're starting to feel it more, and yes, that the results are going to come faster for them, and they're going to see more of an improvement than somebody that does once a week.
Are we talking 10%, 30%, 50%? What kind of a.
I'm probably going to say about 20, between 20 and 30% difference.
So it's a sizable difference.
Yeah,
It's a sizable difference.
yeah,
And definitely worth it then. Now,
I
what would
agree.
happen if somebody would want to come, say, 4 days a week? Is that too much? Is there a limit?
If it was someone that wanted to come 4 days a week or even 3 days a week, that's when we would focus on different muscle groups. So it's like, okay, might be, it would be, say, Monday, Wednesday would be lower body, Tuesday, Thursday would be upper body, so that we're rotating the body, the areas of the body we're working with, so that there's enough rest period in between. And if someone, if somebody was still feeling a little sore, it's like, okay, then maybe we'll focus in on a different type of, maybe more of a mobility day where we're just doing, movements to get the better range of motion through the shoulders, through the hips, through the knees. Um, Again, that's maybe where that person is at. But the 4 days a week, I mean, that's someone that's serious, and I would love that.
So there, you don't feel that, and again, not trying to sound bad, but somebody in
No,
that age group going 4 days a week is not over pushing it.
no.
Okay,
Now
good
we probably would shorten up this. It wouldn't necessarily be. I would say 30 to 45 minutes
session.
if you're going 4 days a week, 30 to 45 minutes is plenty.
And that's something that I forgot to ask from the get go. How long is your average session? I guess that's
Average
kind of
is anywhere
important.
between average is anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
If we're meeting once a week, I highly recommend doing the full 60 minutes, so that if we can do a full body workout from head to toe, um, 45 minutes, we can still do a lot of that within a 45-minute period. Um, 3 days a week, the same thing. I think, 35 to 45 minutes is a good range, because you have that, you can do a lot of different things within there without overextending the person.
Great information. Do you work with your clients at all outside of the gym?
I
Any
do.
any tell me about that.
Yeah, I do. I have several people that I go to their homes.
Okay.
Some of them, and usually if they want to work out of their home, they have equipment there that we use. Um, Whether it's, like a universal type machine, where we can do different muscle groups, hand weights, free weights. And I also have bands that I can bring with me as well, resistance bands that we can use, as an alternative to certain things as well. So, can still get a good workout at home. I mean, some people just, with their schedules the way that they are, or they just feel more comfortable working out at home, um, can do that as well. And I think COVID brought a lot of that.
Right.
With people were buying a lot of equipment, and using that at home, and again, with people getting used to ordering stuff online and having it delivered, it's like, hey, I don't have to go out quite as often.
I want my
Um,
coach delivered now too, please.
we
Right.
had I know we had a neighbor across the street from us that was there for a while. That I want to say I believe he was originally from California. I don't think he ever went out.
Wow.
He got breakfast, lunch, and dinner DoorDash.
Wow.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, I could never not get out of the house. It would
Right.
drive me nuts.
I need social interaction. I mean,
Yeah.
I work from home and I feel like I'm in this box. I don't mind it, but it's just it you that energy connection that you get when you are around people is just to me it's addicting.
Oh, absolutely.
Some people hate it. I absolutely love it. See, like I work with people in the that have anxiety, stress, panic, and for them going out into a social interaction is just like it's
It, it's a big
it's
deal for them.
it's numbing, right? Because it
Yeah.
drains their energy just thinking about it, and trying to walk a person through that mental process of understanding why they feel that, and then how to calm that down is it's not something that I ever thought would need to have to happen in our society. I always kind of thought that humans were just naturally desiring to be around each other, but we have this new, I don't know how to call it, a stress in our society or a fracture where we have generations coming in that are literally afraid of other people. COVID did not do any justice to
No.
that. It just made it worse. So
Yeah.
ironically, the gym that I go to now, which is a private gym, I found them. My wife actually found the owner when she wanted to get a personal trainer, and we met them when they were smaller, and then we trained with them for a few weeks, and I think she, for some reason, she didn't continue, and then when COVID hit, I was going to the Blue Valley Rec Center, their new
Hmm.
like big one hilltop, and they closed instantly. I'm like, I was
Yeah.
just starting to just kind of get back into it, just starting, and I was like, I
Oh,
was
yeah.
on that rhythm, and they closed, and I happened to run into Chris at the bank, and I'm like, hey, this place closed. I wish I could just come, pay you and come to your gym, and he's like, because his gym is trainers only, right? Like
Okay.
it's just like basically what you do. So he's like, yeah. He goes, pay me $50 a month. I'll give you the key. I'm like, perfect,
Yeah.
done. It's nice and quiet too. Like we have friends that absolutely love Lifetime, and the few times that I've been there, even though I shouldn't, I feel intimidated there. I can only imagine a person who doesn't Google the gym and doesn't know any of these things and how they would feel going there. It it's missing that personalized feel that I feel personal trainers and coaches bring. So what you do is absolutely awesome. Do you ever work with your clients, not just on their physical aspects, but just talking to them about their state of mind and where they're at in the process that you are taking them through this journey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a whole part, that's a part of it as well. Just,
How big of a part
when
do
you're
you think
spend
it is?
when you are spending that much time with somebody, you really, you get to know each other pretty well. You want to talk to them, because there are some days someone comes in and it's like you can just tell the energy level is different from them. It's like, what's going on?
Right.
Being attuned to that, so that, all right, then it's like, let's adapt.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, if you've had this going on. I'm just glad you showed up. So we're not going to push it too hard. We're going to get some movement done, but we're not going to push it that hard. And then maybe throughout that is having a conversation about whatever it is that's going on with them personally or in their lives that's causing some of that. And okay, let's talk. I guess maybe because what partially why I got into what I do is looking for, helping someone find options or solutions that might fit with whatever's going on with them. So there is the emotional, psychological end of it to go along with the physical.
How much would you say is psychological and emotional of
Oh
this
gosh,
process?
I'm going to say almost 50-50, honestly.
Interesting. See, because I've asked other physical coaches this, and they usually say 10%. So,
No,
right, and I'm with you. I agree with you 100%. I actually think it may be more like 60-40 because
it could go.
I
There will be
have
times that it will be, or even, I mean, it could flip over to 80-20, because it's like, okay, they're all up in here, they may be physically here, but they're all up in here. It's like, okay, so while we're doing the physical, let's work on the other stuff while we're at it, and hopefully then we can, bring it back down a little bit, or they walk off feeling better because one, they were able to just, as you know, be able to talk it out
Mm-hmm.
to that third party that maybe doesn't have that emotional attachment to it, that can look at it from an, I want to say, a different perspective, because we all know we get into our head and we're only seeing the same stories play over and over. When we talk it out with somebody else and they go, oh, well, what have you thought of this? And you're like, duh.
Right. Because that emotional factor is not there.
Uh-huh.
And that is the beauty of mentors and coaches. And a lot of people that I ask this, because lately, any time that I'm around people, I ask the same question: does every person need a coach or a mentor? Just to kind of see the kind of answers that I get from people, and I would say 90% say no. Why, right? But then none of those people ever stop or look back and go, huh, was there a time in my life where I needed that person to come in, or someone to talk to, or vent
Yeah.
to, who does not have any emotional attachment to my life, who I feel safe kind of throwing it into that trash can, for lack of proper words, but getting rid of that negative energy that is being processed by a person who's not going to take that negative energy onto them, but is actually going to help you find that the solution was much simpler than you thought from the first place. So it's
Yeah.
that is interesting that you brought that up. You're the first one that from the physical coaching side that understands the mental side that I've talked to. Have you ever heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Yes.
Okay, and what about Dr. Andrew Huberman?
I'm not sure about him. It sounds slightly familiar, but I'm not
He
positive.
he runs a lab in Cali, and he does a lot of brain study,
Okay.
and he has a lot of content out there with him doing interviews with Joe Rogan and some of these other people that are well known, and they get he dives into, and not just him alone. Dr. Joe Dispenza actually did tests where they proved that a person who is thinking about doing an exercise will have a 15 to 18% gain in that muscle without actually physically doing it. So now he says, now imagine what would happen if you are thinking about doing exercise and actually doing it at the same time. Right? So when a person
Yeah.
is in the gym, and I see this so often, where people, they're working out, but they just have that like look on their face, like they're angry almost. And my thought is, what energy are you attracting to yourself? Like the working out, exercising, you're supposed to be moving the energy inside of your body. You got to get it flowing, because right now you're locked up and stiff, and here you are thinking negative thoughts instead of having the intention of, I want to be positive through this process. I want to see growth, and that the results should come faster. And then Dr. Huberman talks about how our muscle fibers react depending on the type of energetic environment that our brain is in. So he says, people that listen to negative music while they are working out have a higher chance of causing damage to their muscles versus people that are listening to a positive thing. And I found that to be fascinating, because then it really does come down to, what are you thinking about, and then
Hmm.
what you're talking about, which is that mental aspect. What you do is actually an extra layer on top of just physical training, because if you get their mind primed properly, you can now escalate them even faster.
Yes. Agreed.
Now, do people like to vent more, or do they like to talk and kind of interact in the process? What have you
Um,
found?
I think most of them like to talk more than anything else. It's more conversational than anything else, and you get all sorts of, you get all sorts of things, whether it's, it's, and it could be parts of their life, but when they can just talk about it, sometimes make, we can start to make light of things, and just all this, the what they were maybe stressing about, all of a sudden, this isn't so bad. It's like, we'll blow it off, or just it doesn't become as heavy with certain things, but it's usually more conversational, and there's usually a lot of laughing going on, because when someone starts talking about something, all of a sudden they realize, going, oh, maybe this was pretty stupid, uh, or pretty
Right.
silly, or whatever it might be. And I have several clients that work together, that train together. So I have several of them where I have two people working together. So again, I get that energy between the two people, but in this, not in a big group setting, but just
Mm.
it's a very small group setting. And that's usually, they look forward to each other being there. And something starts to get, someone starts going, oh, it's like someone will, it's like, oh, I don't know if I can finish this. Like, we only got three more.
Yeah.
I usually have one that's the counter.
So it really helps when they're different personality types too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Do you notice that people that work out like that, like not necessarily couples, but friends that work out together? Do you notice that they tend to last longer versus individuals who tend to drop off
Yes.
because of that camaraderie? What's the
Uh,
term for that?
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie. Thank
Uh,
you.
yes,
Camaraderie.
camaraderie.
Whew.
Blah, 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 blah.
That's a tough one for me. The when people are, let's say, reaching that 8 weeks state, right? They're not necessarily seeing the results. They're feeling a little bit more. Their mobility has increased, and they say, "What now, Judy? What is our next step here?"
And I would for me, it's like, you've got the improvements. You're seeing we're seeing what results we've been able to create, really, in a fairly short period of time, based on what you've told me what you want your goals to be. Let's keep it going. If you continue the same way that we're going now, you're going to see those results. And we can keep going on that path, and making sure that stays that way. Just ideally, just keeping them on that regular basis. If someone has brought up the option of wanting to do something on their own, it's like, well, maybe then, it's like, either just based on where they are, it's like, okay, do you feel like you still need that accountability? Then we probably need to stay working together the 2 times a week that we talked about.
Hmm.
If they're starting to feel like they've got that routine, it's like, okay, do we want to look at meeting once a week? You have a workout routine that you do on your own, and we talk about that during our weekly sessions to see if you're staying on track. Because if you're not, then we can go back to those two. Then we go back to, okay, we meet twice a week because you're falling off the wagon.
Hmm.
So giving them different options with which to play with.
Do most people continue on and follow that habit, or do you feel like a lot of them drop off?
Most of them tend to drop. I would say a lot of them tend to drop off. They're not as consistent, um, by just not doing it. They came to a coach for a particular reason, because they needed that accountability or that consistency.
Mm,
And
bingo.
more cases than not, it's okay. Let's try it, and then it's like, no, this isn't quite working. There are always going to be those people that
Of
it's like,
course.
okay, they needed it to get to the right mindset, and now they can maintain that. But for a good percentage of us, we know that we need that, like you said, that kick in the butt, that someone to say, nope, you need to be here.
Right. I hear this talk, this discussed quite frequently about whether people stick through with things, who doesn't, who listens. You at least have the benefit of once they sign up, they are physically showing up. So once they're there, they're there, right? At least for that session. When you're working with people like this over Zoom, when it comes to emotions, I've done courses for the biggest one I ever did had about 700 people on it. From
Wow.
there, three people continued on constantly, talking, training, asking questions, but never seeing any improvement. One person took the information from that day. I never spoke to them. A year later, contacted me saying that they actually took my notes and manifested the life that they wanted, and blew my mind.
That's
So
incredible.
but that's the ratios that we're dealing with. Talk about getting shut down. We have 700 people and only three go, maybe I'll give it a try. And I have a hard time having people just do one thing every day for 30 days that only takes literally 2.5 minutes to do in front of a mirror. So I can only imagine how hard it is to get a person to physically commit and go through this entire process. Excuse me for 1 second, please. Okay, I'm gonna pause this for 1 second. I got a call coming in. I gotta take 1 second. Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
My wife for some reason could not get the garage opener to open. I had to go open it up for
Oh, jeez. Technical issues everywhere.
No, I put him on lock last night and I forgot to put him on lock. So yeah.
Oops.
I had a question and I forgot what it was. Give me a second. Let me think.
So we're comparing.
Yeah, we're talking about the age groups. We talked about the muscle building and so forth. Let's see. So when let's say that you were talking to a person who is in their early 30s, and they would ask you, what advice would you give them to ensure that when they get to their 50s, they are in a better physical state? What advice would you give them?
Find something that they enjoy doing. Even if it's going to the gym, come January, of course, we know that the gyms tend to fill up. People join the gyms or whatever. I'll see new faces, and it'd be the same that I would say to them is like, if you've joined, you want to make some changes. Thank you for coming to my class. I appreciate it. And say, try everything that interests you, because when you find what you like, that's what's going to keep you coming back. And I would probably say that for them in the third. Find some things that you enjoy doing physically, because that's what's going to keep you in a better position 20 years from now than waiting until you're 50 to get started.
I've noticed that your approach is never just lift weights or work out or stretch. It's finding something that a person emotionally enjoys doing that they will commit to, obviously, right? Because if somebody that hates lifting weights is not going to stick to it, versus if they're doing something they actually enjoy, they will stick to it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to get much. Yeah, I mean, I think most people, it's like if they enjoy doing something, they're just going to show up more. I do have a client that she's doing it because of for the health benefits, but again, we're also talking mid 60s versus somebody in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
She knows she needs to do the strength training. It's not something that she necessarily, and that's where the partner relationship comes in. Well, she's working with somebody else, but she knows she needs to do that for her health and well-being, going down the road as she approaches 70 or and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say someone in their 20s or 30s is doing something what they like, because a lot of times that evolves. It's like you start with this, and then you're more apt to try this, and then you might want to try this. So I think it's finding what you emotionally connect with first, or that you like, that you enjoy, that you will make that commitment to do twice a week, or whatever it is that gives you a good feeling that you want to go back and do it again. I think is more important than exactly what it is.
I love that. That is a much healthier or mentally healthier approach than what a lot of people do. That's awesome. You said something earlier, also interesting, that talking about whether their goal has been met by that 8-week or 12-week period. When you first sit down with a client, do you feel that they know the goal that they are trying to achieve, or is it a hunting mission for you to kind of walk them through and understand what their goal is? Essentially, do people come to you with the vision of what they want to look like or feel like 6 months from now, or do you have to help them draw that out?
I will usually have to help them draw that out. It's they know they're coming to me for a reason. They want to feel better or move better. There'll be a few that have a very specific goal, such as they know they're going on a trip in 9 months, that they're going to be doing a lot of walking or hiking, and they know that they are not going where they are now. They would not be able to do that successfully. Um, Again, those are probably more few and farther between where they actually have a specific goal, a specific deadline, and they know they need to do something to get to that point. Most people come in because it's like, I know that I need to do something, um, and then just and sort of, and that's where a lot of the conversation comes in. Is we're working, because as people start talking, I can pick up on things that they're saying that maybe they didn't realize from before, or as they start to feel a little differently. Oh, well, maybe something pops into their head that they wouldn't have thought about, even 8 weeks prior to
Mm-hmm.
that, or 6 months prior to that. It's so, I think the goal does evolve as they evolve in the process of, feeling like they're getting into a place where um, they're feeling better all the way around.
Mm-hmm. And would you say that there is an age limit? Like what's the oldest per like customer that you would take on? And as crazy as that sounds, I'm sure there are people out there who are 100 who are like, I want to continue doing it, right? I mean,
Hmm.
they're not the standard yet, but at the rate that we are going, people are living longer. They are living healthier. And
Hmm.
with what you're doing, people are definitely going to be living longer because they're going to be physically stronger. Because correct me if I'm wrong. But it seems like people fail more. Yeah, people's minds do go, but they tend to, as long as the body can maintain, life can be sustained. But when the physicals begin to go, that's where people begin to degrade really quickly.
Oh, I agree. And so much of that is changing. That's one of the things that part of it started to happen, um, back in 2019, to a conference that I went to, where the conference was about working with adults 50 plus. What was actually very cool with that was that it was scheduled in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I don't know if you may probably not have heard what I'm going to say, but there is a National Senior Games Olympics.
Really?
And yep, National Senior Games. The conference was scheduled in Albuquerque because we had several people that, one, were coming to the conference, but also one of the conference's, developers, or they started it, is his father was participating in the Olympics. So they scheduled or they coincided it in Albuquerque to go along with the Senior Games Olympics, and it was track and field, um, pickleball, swimming, biking, 14,000 participants.
Really?
Yes, and we were there we got to watch the opening ceremonies, and they have big opening ceremonies like they do for the regular Olympics.
And can
And
anybody sign up for this, or do you have to be at a
anybody,
particular?
you do go through a process, like, each state has, their qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
So they have qualifications. So, and if you go to the national games, it means you qualified in your state to
Huh.
participate in the national games. So they have locals or regionals, states, and then, also then going into the nationals. So the last day that I was there, and somebody else had come with me, we got to watch the track and field. And they had long jump, short jump, pole vault, I will say shot put. And we watched a lot of the 1,500-meter runs. They had 50s,
Wow.
and they did it 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and hundreds. The oldest participant was 104.
That's impressive.
Most of them could run better than I could.
But and that goes back to habits, right? It's
Uh-huh.
their daily routines that got them there. And,
It, it, Sorry, yeah, it was, and there were the athletes were anywhere from, who were that were athletes in college and just maintained it the rest of their lives, like the people that didn't start until they were in 55, 60, and then started on that path, and then then they're there.
Right.
It was so cool. It was so cool to see.
And I didn't start my weight training or just getting in shape journey until I had my injury. I always thought that I was in shape and strong, and I found out that I no, not even close. I was what they called skinny fat.
Yeah.
I'm not big, but I have that little layer of fat all around that is just so hard to burn off, but which is the next topic that I want to dive into, diet. The good old
Yes,
diet one.
the good old diet.
Yeah, because I've had to make significant shifts in my diet compared to how I ate in my 20s, even 30s, even five years ago. How much of the conversation of with your clients is about diet, and what does that look like?
We do have the conversation. It's probably not as big with the people that I talk to as much because of the fact it's like, yes, it's if there are some that want to be able to lose, especially if they are overweight, they do want to lose a certain amount of body fat. And I try and make the distinction between, and I actually hate the way it's said, losing weight, because we don't want to lose it. We want to get rid of it. It's like we don't, it's like we don't want it to come back. It's like when we lose something, we go find it.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that.
Isn't that a huge marketing tool?
No, no, no. Hold on.
In the in the mindset area, it's like when
Yes,
you say you're losing something,
something.
what do you want to do?
Your mind. I made a video on this exact topic, and that was part of a training that I did in November. And most people don't get that because every single word in our brain is a function. That function is connected to a program. When you lose something, your brain knows I got to go find it.
Correct.
So and people say I want to lose weight. Wow, your mind is not
Well,
hearing that. You're not priming it well.
it's like you want to get rid of it, and as we get old, and as we get older, 50 and above, and more so for women, but even men, is that of course we have muscle loss.
Right.
As we get older, we start to lose muscle mass,
What
and of course
age do you feel that really starts?
it probably starts in the mid 40s.
Mid 40s.
And for women, it's like once they get into perimenopause, going into postmenopause, because of first the fluctuations in hormones, and then the depletion of the estrogen and progesterone, is those are big factors in how we maintain the muscle mass early on. So it becomes even more important for women to strength train as
Younger.
you hit your 50s, 60s, as long as possible, to help me, to maintain the muscle mass you have, ideally to build a little bit, to build some more, but to maintain what you have. Um, so which means that we want to get rid of body fat. When you say lose weight, nutrition is a part of it, but you don't want to cut back your eating to a point where you're losing muscle mass and not as much with body fat.
Do you feel that you have to have the discussion with your clients when it comes to eating sugars and carbs and the type of diet that they are eating? Because, having that ability to bend over and not feel pain, which is sometimes also caused by inflammation, is due more
Yes.
to diet than it is exercise. So are people responsive to that, or are they kind of like, this is my diet, don't touch me?
I think they become open to, well, let's discuss different alternatives to that. So we can have, you know initially I see sort of where they are with that, but we can talk. Again, part of it's during the workout. It's like, okay, what do they might talk about events, or how it's like, do you cook do you cook for yourself at home? Do you eat out a lot? What do you like? When you go out to eat, what is it that you like to eat? Um, is all right. Okay, you like to go out to eat. Can we swap out the French fries for a veggie? Can we do a grilled versus a fried? Not taking away the enjoyment of that, or even at home, is okay. Can you keep, it's like keep bags of frozen vegetables in your freezer, because then it's easy to pull out. You don't have to worry about them going bad. You don't have to worry about cutting and chopping. It's like you pull it out, put it in the pan or the microwave, and you've got that ready to go. Um,
So he,
I think if you can keep things simple for people, again, it's like most people don't want something complicated. They want something that's simple that, oh, I can do that. I can keep frozen veggies in the freezer and just, and just warm them up from there. Or, yeah, it's you can put seasonings on the grilled chicken, and it probably tastes better than if you threw it in flour and deep fried it for the most part. Or have it once in a while. It's okay to have it once in a while, just not all the time. And trying to find common ground where, okay, we can incorporate some better health habits along with it, but not necessarily, you know, I try and look at it from a realistic perspective. It's like if we can do the 80-20 rule where you're eating, it's like, especially at that point, it's like if they want to be able to enjoy life. So, okay, that 20%, go to the birthday party, have the birthday cake. Someone has fried chicken, have a piece. You don't have to have the whole chicken. You can have a piece.
everything in moderation.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting question then. From your clients that you've worked with, what would you say the ratio would be of people that like to cook for themselves or people that eat out on a constant basis?
I'd probably say 85-15. Most people like to cook at home.
Interesting. And do you notice a correlation between health and taking care of themselves and cooking for themselves kind of comes together versus the people that like to eat out a lot are not as health conscious?
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting. That kind of confirms a lot of theories.
Yeah.
It like to be honest, it drives me insane when it's 6:30 and I see nothing but family sized cars just pile through drive through at McDonald's or Taco Bell or the
Hmm.
things like that. It's just it's mind boggling. But then again,
It
I
is.
get it. Just like you said, nobody wants to chop it up, spend the time cooking it, right? It's a process, but it's something that we have done as humans ourselves for so many centuries. I don't think our bodies have adapted to the fact that we are not eating the food that we are making yet. Mentally, we're still kind of in that. That's what we've done for thousands of years. So it's a very interesting shift in people's mindset when it comes to diet and how that's going to affect their health. When we're working with people that, let's say somebody says, I do want to build up muscle. Do you recommend people to then begin to lift a little bit heavier weights, or do you have them gradually build up to it? Like what would you say would be the more proper process?
Oh, it would definitely be a progressive process. It's like let's find where, you know, what you can do, let's just say for 10 reps. Okay, let's find the weight that by the time we hit rep 8 or rep 9, things are starting to you're having to work at it a little bit. We stick with that weight range until rep 8, rep 9, rep 10 just feels like it's pretty simple. Then it's time, okay, let's add on 5 more pounds. Let's see what 5 more pounds looks like. I would say, like, in particular, like with legs, upper body not as much in particular, but lower body, it's much easier to add 5 pounds or 10 pounds onto something, and it's because they're bigger muscle groups, so they can take that a little bit more. um, and doing that again, it's the body will adapt. We want it to stay challenged, but then as it starts to adapt, then we want to keep that challenge going. Or doing something, adding a different exercise in that they haven't been doing to challenge those muscles slightly differently. So that we're using them in a different fashion. Yes, we may still be doing legs, but we're doing it from a different perspective.
Do you see that people have a more inclination towards just improving their range of motion or actually getting more movement out of their body
I'm going to say a combination of both, because I think we can do both
at the same time?
at the same time.
Interesting. Because it's I've watched if you seniors training with the coaches at my gym, and just some of them seem to have an incredible mobility while others struggle, and it seems like they have to spend so much time just kind of just working on their range a little bit, just to, like as you said, lifting up hands, something that we take for granted almost, because people, just 10 years older than me are having a hard time doing this. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. How do you feel about fasting, and do you ever apply that to what you work with your clients?
I think it just depends on the individual and sometimes what they're doing. A lot of people, a lot of trainers and people love it. I think for myself, fasting, I would only have to be for myself personally. I would only do it on the days that I know that I don't have a lot of activity going on, because if I want to stretch that out, I want to have that energy level. It's for me, 4 days a week. I'm at the gym at 8 a.m. teaching a class, and I've got to have that energy level ready to go. Where if it's a day off, day where I know that I don't have to be there right away, I can stretch it out. But I know by the time it's like, if I've expended 400 calories in teaching a particular class, I'm like, I'm starving.
Right, right,
It's like, I'm sorry, I'm not waiting another 3 hours to eat. I'm going to eat now.
right.
So I think it depends on the individual, and that's what if they know that they're going to have an easygoing day, it's like, sometimes just play around with it and see. I mean, the way that the intermittent fasting can be is, okay, you can start at dinner time. It's like, once you've done with dinner, then don't eat until don't eat anything, sleep all night, and then get up the next morning. Well, if you say you ate at 5 or 6 o'clock, well, and then you don't even think about it until 8, you've already got 15 hours right there.
Right.
So,
Which is perfect.
Yeah. So that whole idea of intermittent fasting can be done in a way that you don't feel like you're having to wait until noon to eat something.
Right. It's just people need to cut out snacking, which is, people tend to have dinner now a little bit earlier, and for somebody who's going to bed at like 11, if they have dinner at 5, there's a high
They're
chance.
Going to be snacking.
Yeah. So it's about organizing or structuring their day.
Yeah.
So but do people over 50 that you are working with, are any of them like even doing like a 7-8 hour fasts, or these overnight fast, or are they not susceptible, that's a bad word, are they not as responsive to it or more open to doing it as the younger generations are?
I think that really becomes very individual. I have some people I think the more structured a person is, the easier it is for them to if they're interested in doing something like that. In a lot of cases, they're sort of doing it because if they've got that structure, they're eating at certain times and leaving, and then just stopping and not doing it again till the next time. I think sometimes is helping people that aren't as structured to come up, a little bit more, to have more of a structure. Okay, do you eat at the same time every day? Where do you find yourself snacking? How can we keep you from heading to the pantry for
cereal or whatever's in there?
Whatever it is, it's like I know people that are they like they love their sweets. I'm the salty crunchy. I want something like that. It's like, candy you can keep inside, but or the cookies. It's like, no, just give me the popcorn or
pretzels,
something. Pretzels, right, yeah. Right. So I think is those that are having those challenges, then okay, how can we create a better structure for you?
Interesting.
So maybe you eat at 7 p.m. and then so that they don't feel like they're having to have that snack if they stay up later. Or coming up, all right, well then if you're going to have a snack, how about like that, something that is more of a protein. So maybe you take some Greek yogurt, or take the Greek yogurt and throw some chocolate protein powder in it or whatever, so it feels like you're having chocolate pudding.
Trick the mind. Why not? It
Yeah,
works,
why
right?
not?
It absolutely works. Do you ever do any Zoom trainings, like where people are in a different state and they have their equipment and you just kind of walk them or coach them through the workout that way?
That is something that I want to expand on because we brought that into play with
COVID.
during COVID. During COVID, and I will say it's like the studio that I do the facility that I do the training out of is she was working with a good coach. We were prepared for when COVID hit. We were prepared to go into Zoom immediately. We actually practiced it the week before.
Nice.
So when it did happen, we were able to switch over to Zoom both for the small group training that we have at our studio, plus we were able to use it for our private clients to keep them going throughout. I've had most of mine, come back, but it's something that I also want to bring back, and I want to focus more on ideally on a small group setting, so that you still get that camaraderie without, um, um,
Overload.
without
Too much.
the overload. Yeah.
Right.
So
And that will allow you to reach people in various parts of the world
yeah,
too. So that's yeah, that's there's I don't know if I could personally ever do it. I need that person to person, but I know a lot of people say that they actually are looking for, or they just use video apps, or they do Zoom coaches. So I found that to be interesting.
yeah. Now, because even from a fitness standpoint, it's like I can, because people have gotten used to using the cameras give the video and that, I can still do those assessments because I can have them send me videos of their movement patterns
Right.
so that I can then still do the same thing that I would do in person, for the most part, but being able to do it from a long distance standpoint because I can evaluate that. We can have those conversations. I can make those adjustments because I'm watching you on the screen.
And you can also then go back and rewatch that video and slow it down
Yeah.
and see where, yeah, I mean that gives you actually a leg up. It gives you a better evaluation, right?
Yeah. Now I may have less tools to use from just depending on what they have or what we decide to utilize as tools, but it's still, yes, like you said, I mean, it gives me that visual that I can go back and reassess. So it's like, all right, well, but in particular, someone was just, I won't say complain, but mention something that either they were sore or something bothered them. Yeah, with having the video, I could go back and go, well, let me look at that again and see, based on what you're telling me, let me see what it was that we did that may have created that.
Right. Where the pain point was. Right.
Yeah,
Interesting. That's the new technological economy of helping people across the world via video, which is absolutely amazing. I think it's going
yeah,
to
I
open
think
up doors.
that
And
it does.
Judy, how long have you been doing this?
Oh gosh, I have been in the fitness industry almost 20 years.
Wow. Okay. And how did your fitness journey start 20
It
years ago?
it started with my daughter. I had her when I was 37. And because I had her later in life, I was not going to be that mom that was just going to sit on the sidelines while she went and did everything. Because I was always active as a kid myself, and played sports through high school, and that is, I wanted to be able to be that kind of parent with her. So they opened up a gym literally around the corner from us when she was turning 5, and and like a lot of people just starting their journey. I knew if it wasn't close, I wasn't going. So I get that whole mentality. It's like, all right, if you're more than 5 miles away, I'm not. I know I'm not going to show up on a regular basis. It's just not going to happen.
Accurate.
so so I started back at the gym there. Found a particular class that class or two that I liked, and I started showing up regularly. And they offered a training for that class to become an instructor. So I decided to take that training and became an instructor, and it has sort of evolved from that. And then the personal training came in about 12 years ago. Just partially for my own, I wanted to be able to have the education as people were asking me questions. I wanted to be able to make sure that I could give them the right answers on what was going on with them and that. So
Well,
And then
what do you think shifted in your mind that took you from just a person practicing it to wanting to become a coach and a teacher?
I think that probably had to do, of course, my daughter laughed at me, or made a comment with it, is I was talked out of becoming a gym teacher in high school. I actually wanted to go to college to become a gym teacher because that was, I mean, again, I love the sports, I was active, and I got talked out of it.
So this is
And so I
part
think
of
this was
who
my
you are.
way of being able to do what I originally wanted to do. Except this time I have an audience that wants to be there instead of probably kids that don't want to be there.
Very true. So this is something that you were kind of born with, this passion to help others and to teach, and this is you're following your dream.
Yeah, I
That
think
is
so.
amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And Judy, where can people find you? How do they get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me through my website, which is EmpoweredFitness.today. And I did that on purpose
I like that. I like that.
because everybody likes to say tomorrow. No, it's like,
No, today.
empowered today.
That I like
Uh,
that. That's really really cool actually. And what about social media? Do you have any pages that
so,
you put people
social,
into?
I do. I have it's Judy Logger Empowered Fitness Today on Facebook. And I'm under Judy Logger on Instagram. I really don't use Twitter all that much. And I'm under Judy Logger for LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm really glad that we got a chance to sit down